It's unusual. Happy Saturday, happy Saturday, happy Saturday. And we are live. The full tripod is here. We got the madman, we got Ryan Dyroot, and I'm here. And it's me. I haven't been here for a while, been taking care of some things and a new extracurricular activity that I took in. But we're here, we're live with exciting news. I'll go around the horn. Madman, long time no see. Hope all is well. How are you doing?
Doing well, Coach. Great to see you, and so excited that it's the bearded bandits, the three of us again here. It's probably been close to a month since it's been all three of us. So excited to do this on a beautiful Saturday. Talk Trojan ball. What happy news, and also get to sort of on air congratulate you, Coach, on just the exciting new chapter in your life as a head coach. And, I know Ryan and I have been sort of talking about it in various segments of the show over the last few weeks. So we're so proud of you and so excited.
Yeah, don't tell too many people. Now they're gonna follow me and figure out if I could put my money where my mouth is.
All about.
Right, Di, how are you doing?
What's up, brother? Good seeing you. Yeah, super pumped for you. Love that you're rocking the LB hat. You guys both know I lived in Long Beach for a decade, so I went to Long Beach State, and so got big
beach.
Long Beach. So happy that you're going to be bringing hopefully some dominance back to the city of Long Beach in terms of high school football.
That's the plan. That's the plan. And that's why I've been away for a couple of weeks. I've been trying to get this thing together. I almost have it there. Yeah, it's exciting. I get a chance to. This is a total rebuild. This is coming from the ground up, and doing all the research and everything for this program. They kept asking, like, why would you want to do that? But I got complete support from the administration. I got complete support from everybody on campus. My time on campus, so. The goal is to win state this year, Division 14 CIF championship between Division 14 and Division 10. We're starting off our week 1, August 29th against Crenshaw High School at our new field. So it's being built right now. So, this is exciting time for me. Exciting moment. It all works out. I'll still be able to be a part of the podcast. I get to do everything I love, and so we'll get to see what happens. Like I said, this is a rebuild. It's fun. I'm having fun already. So
hell yeah.
It's only up here, right?
Isn't Crenshaw High School what that show All American was based on?
Beverly Hills.
Well, he went from Crenshaw to Beverly Hills, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. Beverly Hills. Yep, he went to Beverly Hills. I actually know Spencer. Like, I grew up in the football world with Spencer, so it's really interesting. And he played at Oregon with my brother, so that's interesting.
What up,
Jay? Thanks, Jay. Thank you. I appreciate it. Let's jump into this news. So when I heard this, and I know you guys are kind of like, I'm pretty sure you guys touched on Rob Ryan last week. And when the news came out on Rob Ryan last week, I sent you guys a text, and was that my kids' tryout, and I said, how did that happen? And everybody's looking at me like crazy. And this is another thing. This is another like how did that happen moment. So two things popped out in my mind when I saw this. So when I'm talking about is Chad Bowden's name, the USC football general manager. Chad Bowden comes from Notre Dame, created a great structure at Notre Dame. One of those things where you don't know what's really going on because it's a private institution, just like USC. We have ideas of what's going on, but we really don't know what's going on because they don't have to tell us, like UCLA and Cal and all the other public schools. So two things popped in my mind when I found out Chad Bowden. Why would you leave Notre Dame? It's kind of like one of those things too. And then is Lincoln Riley really trying? You know what I mean? Like, is he really trying to turn this thing around? And why is he not there making that turn? The one that stands out to me is like, why is he leaving Notre Dame? Right? They just made over $50 million just by making the playoffs. They have plenty of NIL money. They have great support system. They are a football school. They are Notre Dame football is Notre Dame. We wouldn't care about Notre Dame or know what Notre Dame is. Why do people leave that program? And then the second thing that pops in my mind is, how is Lincoln Riley stealing all these people? Last year was Lynn. Now we got Rob Ryan as a linebacker coach. Now we got Chad Bowden, who's now the GM, leaving Notre Dame, who set up Notre Dame's whole structure as the GM, and now he's coming to USC. So either he's a really great recruiter or people just love the weather that much. You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things. I have nothing against the hire. I love the hire because of what he did at Notre Dame. I just don't understand why he would leave Notre Dame in the situation he is, where money's not an object, or maybe money's not an object here, and we just don't know, because SC and Notre Dame are exactly the same. They don't have to report their funds publicly, and we really don't know what's going on because they're private and they keep everything close to their chest. And maybe this is the breakout year. I'll kick it to Jamal. Jamal, what do you have to say on this hire?
Well, Coach, it's a very significant one, and I think I'll start here from sort of the USC perspective. And I think the last time all three of us were together, we were discussing GM candidates, if you recall, and we were talking about the college track versus the NFL track, and is there going to be sort of a crossover effect, and what are the characteristics that we're looking for? And obviously, Chad Bowen was a name we hadn't discussed because it felt sort of far-fetched and away from sort of the immediacy of what we could sort of look at and attain. But if you recall, who were the two candidates that really resonated? One at the time was Brandon Sosna, and then the other was John McKay, who was director of pro scouting for the Rams over the last 6 to 8 years. And what were the common characteristics of those two that really stood out to us? Young, innovative, outside-the-box thinkers, pedigreed, well-respected, had a vision. And so when you start dissecting all of those characteristics, Chad Bowen checks all of those boxes when you look at how he sort of approached his career. I mean, he's barely 30. I think he's 29 or 30. And in terms of being Marcus Freeman's right-hand man on the administrative side of things in Cincinnati, carries over to Notre Dame, was assistant director of recruiting, then he was director of recruiting, and then last year he was the general manager. And by all indications, he's done such a phenomenal job and such a big thinker. He was Pro Football Scoop's player personnel director of the year this past year. He had that very interesting and sort of charismatic podcast with Marcus Freeman where he wanted Marcus Freeman to jump out of an airplane as part of a recruiting pitch on the 50-yard line of Notre Dame Stadium. And when you just sort of think about the pedigree, he's the son of Jim Bowden, who was a general manager in baseball for 15 plus years. His father was the youngest GM in MLB when he was with the Cincinnati Reds at the age of 31, was executive of the year. So he's grown up understanding how to make deals, how to construct rosters. That education has taken place from a very young age. And when you look at the opportunity, I think that presents itself here, Coach, to address the point, I think there's two things that make USC significantly different from Notre Dame right now. Number one is the salary. I think there was a report that Bowden was making between $250,000 to $300,000 last year with Notre Dame, and he's been offered about $1 million this year with USC. So you're talking about 3x the salary jump to come over to USC. And when you look at kind of the NIL composition, even though Notre Dame is such a big name, blue blood, the history, reports are that they've been playing in that $7 to $8 million NIL range. And so they've been having to be really intentional with how they've made their choices. SC is probably at about double that right now. So when you look at a Bowden coming in, having so much success in terms of creating the strategy, the structure, the execution of the Notre Dame program, but having to be really intentional with his shots on goal because he's got less resources. Now you bring all that pedigree, you bring all that dynamism, you bring all that energy with now twice the level of resources, and you've given him a 3x salary jump where you're letting him know what the expectations are, and now you're really cooking with fire. And I think it just shows a seriousness of Lincoln Riley and Jen Cohen over these last few weeks. Look, they closed D'Anton Lynn, the on charge of Penn State. They raised his salary. They went and got Rob Ryan and had to probably pay a premium for Rob Ryan for a linebacker coach. They were happy to do that. And now with Bowen, they go 3x the salary of what he's making. So they are prioritizing staff and development in a very significant way, putting their money where their mouth is. And I think it's letting everyone know the urgency and the immediacy of the moment is here. This is a make it or break it 2025, and there's full administrative support to make it happen. And I think that's why we're all very excited.
Ryan, what do you got?
Yeah, not much more to add than that. I mean, home run hire. The only thing I'd say too, I think I don't think they have a huge factor, but I think the fact that USC's these new facilities that we've all heard about that they're adding in the 26th season and built and state of the art and going to be one of the tops in college football. I think that's also enticing for someone, a young up and coming GM with the creativity he has, seeing what he can do in the recruiting space with those facilities and with kind of that backing from the university. Not to say he didn't have the backing from Notre Dame, but from the stuff we've heard in the last 18 to 24 hours is that it seems like USC is giving more backing than what he had. And I think that's a big reason why he came here. So yeah, I won't add too much more. It's a home run hire. Again, not a name we talked about just because it's a lateral move from a premium program. So just didn't see it happening. But now we've seen this USC program, and whether people still agree with it or not, but you go pluck Lincoln Riley from a premium program. You did Dan Lynn from across town. You get all these guys from other top programs really showing that USC truly can be a top 5 program in the country. Now they got to go do it on the gridiron and turn those into wins. But certainly putting all their stock and getting back to what it should be. And this hire certainly resonates that.
Are we at all worried about Brian Kelly effect? Like, because this is now the same story, Brian Kelly. I need about 2 more players, and I can't get him at Notre Dame. I could get him at LSU, but you see what Brian Kelly turned into, right? It's kind of the same story. I'm not saying that will happen with him, but is there something in the back of your mind like, all right, we have to make sure. Sorry about my background singer. We have to make sure that there is no Brian Kelly effect to this, because you kind of get in the same too. More money, more resources, and those types of things. That could be a little bit dangerous, because now you're like, oh, okay, I'm playing with 20 million instead of 10 million. I could overpay a little bit more, and then you turn around, now the money is gone. Like, is there any, kind of in the back of your mind saying like, I hope this doesn't turn into the same situation that Brian Kelly turned into? Ryan, what do you think? Go ahead.
I mean, there's that could always be a thing. I think it's more though, that can happen, but I think it's more in this hire. Like they've had the money now. They didn't have the person that could allocate that money correctly. And, we know now Dave Emmerich, his title has changed to chief of staff, which is what ironically Brandon Stosa's title was back when he was with USC. But that's what, for all his faults, that's what Dave Emmerich was supposed to be when Lincoln Riley brought him in, was supposed to be more of a chief of staff, not dealing with agents and recruits. And he just wasn't made for that and was kind of forced into that role because they didn't have one. And whoever you want to blame, that's another conversation. But now they have a guy that can actually deal with agents and recruits and allocating the money correctly. So I get the concern, but I think it's more of they've had the money. They just haven't known how to actually allocate it correctly and get these contract deals and actually negotiate correctly. And now they get a guy that did it with reportedly half the money. And now he has more, because it's not Lincoln Riley doing that. It's now Chad Bowden doing that. So certainly that can happen, but I would be more right now, as of today, January 25th or whatever, like just excited that they actually have someone that knows what they're doing in that space.
What do you got, Matt, man?
Yeah, I think the only counter to that, and I agree with Ryan, is I think there's 2 effects now that I think we're seeing that are taking place, just to sort of provide a balanced perspective. The first is, I think there's an acknowledgement from administration, from the preeminent donors, that we are going to give Lincoln Riley everything that he needs to be successful on the field in 2025, and then we're going to make an assessment. And I think now what we've seen over the last 30 days in terms of opening up the checkbook and really extending for a top-notch staff is Lincoln Riley is out of excuses in 2025. Now it's you either make the playoff or you didn't. There's none of this 2 plays away, we're 1 player away, we were a call away. Like, I think there's an acknowledgement from the ecosystem, from the Trojan family, that Lincoln Riley, this is year 4. Now we're going to give you everything that you've asked for. Here you go. On a silver platter, the top GM, the top defensive coordinator, a linebacker coach who's basically a second defensive coordinator. You've got Eric Henderson. You've got Doug Bell. You've got the support of everyone. Perhaps you felt like that support wasn't concentrated. It wasn't cohesive. It wasn't aligned in years past. Now here it is. You've got everything, and now you're in year 4. Now you got to go do your thing. Because if now this team falls short in 2025 with everything that they've gotten, this is now squarely on Lincoln Riley. And it's a very binary outcome at this point with all the resources that he's gotten. You've either accomplished it or you haven't. There's no such thing as being close now in 2025. And I think the only sort of counter, if there was, I don't even want to say a negative, but the only sort of watch out item to the Bowen hire is that you're giving someone 3x the salary, and he was only in this job for 1 year. So that's the only sort of watch out. And part of that also is just we're in such a new era that's so young to begin with. Like, this NIL era is only 3 or 4 years old. So, whoever you get that's going to be successful, they don't have necessarily that track record in that job. but that would be the only wart on Miss America, so to speak, of you're giving someone 3x the salary from where they were in a job that they've only had 12 months of experience in. That would be the only watch out. Other than that, this is an absolute home run.
Man, that argument you just gave Lincoln Riley another year. You know that, right? So we can't use that argument if we need him to succeed. Let me tell you why. If you look at the timeline, I'm just now getting the GM and in the end of January, right? And you want me to win. So I missed the whole portal season and I missed the whole signing date. I just now got my GM. How come I can't use my GM for 2026, right? I'm just now in January in 2025, after everything has been done, you guys are now giving me everything that I need for me to succeed, and you're not giving me a chance to use it, and you want me to use it instantly in 2025. How come I can't use it for 26? So if that's the case, we kind of got to give Lincoln Riley an opportunity for 2 more years and let him use all of his toys. You can't tell me from that perspective, like, well, we gave you a GM. Well, you gave me a GM in January. I didn't get to use it for the portal, and I didn't get to use it for my signing class. But now you're going to get rid of me? This is not a job I want to be at. So now they're making the job undesirable if they fire him at the end of the season because they give you everything you need when you're about to fire me, but I don't get to use any of the resources. Like that's where I think the front people make a mistake. They're not using this guy. They can only use him for one portal period, and that's the spring portal period. He won't be able to use them for the 26 signing class, and he won't be able to use them for the next portal period if they fire him. That's an undesirable job now. You give me all my resources when you're ready to get me out of here, and then use that as an excuse.
Coach, what's so interesting is Coach has been a head coach for 2.5 weeks, and now he's siding with Lincoln Riley. That's all it took.
I'm not siding with Lincoln Riley. I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is that if they're going to get rid of him, they have to make the job desirable. Don't make the job undesirable now. Like, just hear me out. They've actually now have a quote unquote good GM. We know the best GM is the Courtney guy from Alabama. We try to make a run at him. We try to get him, and we didn't get him. Okay, now you give me a GM after the signing day. You give me a GM after the big portal era closes, and then now you're telling me, well, we gave you everything you needed, but I never even got to use the GM. Now you're going to get rid of me? You're giving me all the resources. Well, you're just now giving me the resources, and you're getting rid of me. Me as a coach from the outside is like, hold on. So I don't get everything up front, but when you're ready to X me out, whatever you need, we could give it to you. And that's to me is the kiss of death. They have to be careful on how they do it and how they present it to get rid of him, because now the job becomes a little bit undesirable. That's all I'm saying. He still needs to go.
Coach, I see your point of view. I don't agree, though, because number one, Emmerich was Lincoln Riley's guy. So it is Lincoln Riley's choice to stay with Emmerich for as long as he did. So there's accountability there. It's not like some decision was taken out of Lincoln Riley's hands on who the GM needs to be from the very beginning of his tenure. He chose to stick with Emmerich as long as he did, and now the alignment has sort of come together moving forward. Number two, I think we've all seen it, guys, how quickly rosters can change in this day and age. I mean, think about the fluctuation of USC football from December 15th to December 30th. I mean, in a 15-day period, think about who exited the roster, who entered the roster, and who we thought might also exit and enter the roster. I mean, it was literally every position. There was sort of a question mark, number two. And so I think the spring portal period is going to be a significant amount of time to be able to put this together, especially given the fact that Bowden in 1 year was able to do what he was able to do at Notre Dame. And then I think number three, Coach, moving forward, you still got Jakeem. You still got Longstreet. You still got the 5 stars that you needed to in the door. So it's not like everybody left in any way, shape, or form. You still got Silver. You still got Jarrett. You still sort of upgraded at defensive line. You were able to sort of replenish at offensive line. So he's not starting from scratch by any stretch of the imagination. That combined with the spring portal window, combined with his understanding of the job when we're talking about Bowden, I think makes it sort of credible. I think to your point, does it leave the door slightly open? Perhaps. But I think there's enough here where there's going to be a holistic body of work here in 2025.
I got you. But they did try to get what's the guy's name from Alabama, Ryan? And
Courtney Morgan.
Yeah, they tried to get Courtney Morgan, but he was like, no. Like, so there was some, but I'm with you. I'm not saying this is the fit for the guy, but I'm just saying the way they're presenting it, it's kind of like, they gave me everything I needed and then they fired me. So the next guy's gonna come in and say, well, are they going to give me everything I need up front, or are they going to give me everything when they're ready to get rid of me? I'm just afraid of the kiss of death and the desirability of the job. That's all. That's only what I'm looking at. You are correct, though. They were able to accomplish things without a GM, and that is Lincoln Riley's guy. And if that guy was really that bad and he wasn't doing his job, why is he still on the staff? You know what I mean? And the number one rule of coaching is your friends get you fired. And we saw it with Grinch. Now we're seeing it with this guy, and he's refusing to fire him. Get him off your staff. That cancer is still there. Get it out. Like, it's time to start over, but he's just afraid to do it. So I can't agree with you in that sort. So I'm just saying, I just don't want the job to look desirable next spring when we're talking about who's going to be the next SC's head coach. That's all I'm saying. you get where I'm coming from? Like, does that make a little bit of sense?
I don't think SC's job will ever be undesirable, but that's just me. I think you'll have no problem doing that.
That's all I have on that. We got anything else on this big news?
Not really. Yeah, it's gonna be an exciting spring. See what happens. There's still too, like, it's crazy to think, but I mean, the 2025 class can still have some fluctuation. I mean, there's a linebacker right now they're going after, AJ Talele, who was committed to Washington State. And who's to say with this non-tampering illegalness that they can't get some kids that are committed to decommit for that late signing period in February. So there's a chance they could still actually get some guys in this 25 class before spring ball even starts, because that late signing period is just, a week or so away. So it's going to be crazy. I mean, college football, they got to get rid of this tampering thing. It's ridiculous. I mean, Miami's basically living on everyone's campus right now.
All I'm saying is there's a Rowe family feud right now because there's allegations of tampering from Oregon for one of SC's top offensive linemen, and they're refusing to admit that there's not tampering, even the Oregon people. And we all know it's tampering when you enter at 11:59 on the last day. That's 100% tampering. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, did you see the reports yesterday that schools were offering Ohio State's receivers like $4.5 million just to enter the portal? I mean,
really? That's tampering.
Where do you call that if not tampering? They're on the team.
That is legit tampering. Like that's tampering. And tampering is an instant violation, but they're just turning their heads to it because they don't want to deal with it. You get what I'm saying? Like, they don't want to deal with all the investigation and all the rules.
Well, what it is right now, because there isn't actual rule, is that technically a school cannot directly contact a player, but there's no rules about an agent or a manager or a third party. So Oregon can easily go to an agent and say, hey, go talk to this kid and tell him we'll give him this if he enters. And technically
that's where they're loopholing it. I got you.
Contacting, yeah.
So they're loopholing it.
Yeah.
And they're refusing to do anything about it. NCAA needs to fix what's going on really soon, because there's going to be a school brave enough to say, hey, I can support you guys. Or if we all put our stuff together, like, let's just leave. Like, let's just disband. Like, they're not doing anything about it. College football is completely out of control. Let's just disband and leave the NCAA to the other sports. We'll take basketball and football with us, our biggest moneymakers, and we'll have our own thing, create our own rules, and have a sound environment. Like, that may happen in our lifetime, and they don't think it's going to happen, because every time something goes wrong, they jump in and say, hey, look what we did. We fixed it. But you're really not fixing it. You knee-jerk at it, and then you make it worse. Like, they really need to fix this. This is the NCAA's chance to be like, look, all right, sorry, guys, we messed up. Ha, ha, ha. We thought we were doing right. Here's the rules. Let's fix it. Let's get this thing back in order. If you don't do it, the Blue Bloods are going to be gone, and there'll be no more NCAA football. We'll still have college football, but the NCAA won't even matter, which might be good. You know what I mean? The coaches might come up with some stuff and get the right people, and it might be right. That's just my opinion. What do I know? I'm just some guy. I'm just some podcaster. You know what I mean? I don't know what I'm talking about.
Coach, the one thing I'll close with on the Bowden hire and situation is the other aspect of our conversation, guys, if you recall a few weeks ago before the hire was made, is what exactly is this role going to be? Is it just the transaction element of signing contracts and allocating budgets, or is it going to be sort of a true GM type of role where you're identifying talent and you're really involved in roster construction and the strategy of talent moving forward. And so much of that is dependent on the relationship, right? Bowen and Freeman had such a tight relationship over a few years that it allowed Bowen, I think, to be more of what we think of the prototype pro-style general manager, where it was more strategy and it was more roster construction. And it was also one of the reasons why Morgan from Alabama chose not to come to USC at that time, because he didn't feel like he was going to get that same level of authority with Lincoln Riley, just given their lack of relationship. I think it was interesting that the reports were Lincoln Riley was really seeking out Bowen as one of his top choices and was very intentional in it. So it seems like Lincoln Riley is really willing to make that a very collaborative relationship, even if they didn't have any sort of past relationship, to really allow Bowen to be more of this pro-style GM. Because I'm seeing in the comments, and I completely agree, like, how big a deal is this? Are you guys making too big a deal of this or not enough? I think it is a very big deal if Bowen gets to be the totality of what a general manager is, not just the contracts and the finances from a transaction standpoint, but in terms of the strategy of roster construction, of talent identification, and understanding how to bring Lincoln Riley and D'Anton Lynn's philosophy to life. And it seems like it's going to be the latter, but the evolution of that relationship, I think, is going to be the single determinant factor over how effective Bowen is going to be moving forward.
I think it's a bigger deal than needed, because we got our inside guy, Ryan Dyrud, who heard how bad this GM has been and how many kids he's made walk away. You know what I mean? It's not a Band-Aid. This is a complete fix. You know what I mean? Like, how many kids would Bowen stays instead of walking away? And then when you end up hearing the story from the inside saying, well, the GM wasn't letting the parents be in on the negotiation talks, or if they were 10 minutes late to a Zoom interview running home from practice, he'll just cancel the meeting, right? We were hearing all those stories coming from SC's current GM. Like, maybe this guy's more like, oh, okay, let's find a time, or I could come meet you. What time works better? I could meet you 10 minutes later, 100%. Yeah, your parents could be on it. That changes everything, and that makes your kid want to be there now. Like, so this is bigger of a deal than it seems. Like, we're replacing really bad with at least good and understands the job. You know what I mean? That's like me walking into a tech job and trying to program something. Next thing you know, everything crashes. It's like we're replacing a techie with the techie, and this techie has a little bit more experience and has some success at being a techie. Now he's making a better program. So I think this is kind of a big deal, because at least we're going in the right direction, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge deal, I think. I mean, this is a bigger deal, in my opinion, than even like the Rob Ryan hiring, who is a great hire, but versus a linebacker coach versus like overseeing like recruiting operations. And he'll be like overseeing all the official visits and kind of what those look like. And, you know, when Jamal brought it up, but him like joking about having Freeman jump out of a plan, like these are all like recruiting strategies that you implement to really align with your program. And then you also, and again, last thing I'll say, but when you look at Notre Dame, like, their program and their intentionality and who they recruited and who they went after, there was a strategy there. And I think USC I think they're on a strategy now when you look at this 25, 26 class and this transfer portal class. But hopefully his alignment with Lincoln Riley will show that, and it'll stay within that alignment and not kind of go all over the place.
Yeah. Hopefully we won't be searching for a coach next winter. That's the goal. Let's just get there. Let's just get to the winter. You know what I mean? I'm just being honest. Like,
we're in winter.
Next winter.
It's cold.
Well, yeah, winter is coming, but we hope winter is coming in a good way, because it's Christmas time. We don't want
it's been cold since Vince's knee was down. It's been cold, you know. So.
Yes. It warmed up a little bit at the Rose Bowl for Penn State. It warmed up a little bit at the Rose Bowl for Penn State, but no, let's just get there first. That's where I mean with this whole thing. Like, I'm legit from Missouri. Show me. Like, I'm really at the show me stage. I'm kind of done, but I'm at the show me stage, and hopefully this all works out and it's all for naught. That's my ending piece on it. Sorry to be negative, Nancy, but I mean, I can only take so much. I was hurting, boss. I was hurting bad, so I just need some help. So let's just keep it moving. You guys got anything else before we get out of here and let you enjoy the rest of your Saturdays?
No. nothing else. Good stuff. Good seeing you.
For good seeing you guys too. I appreciate all you guys for tuning in. You guys know how it is. It's the Bet Online Salutatory podcast coming in live with great news. We got a GM. Hopefully this thing moves in the right direction. We see Lincoln doing all the thing. You guys know how it go. Live free. Fight on.